get into the icks. So, guys that we're not touching, guys that just give us the heebies, right? Like, and like we talked about icks on our last show, like, and icks are just like little things. It's not like, it doesn't maybe mean the world of anything, but it's like, it's just things that like gross us out, or like things that give us like we were talking about like examples of icks. Icks is like a kind of a thing that, you know, girls say about their boyfriends that just gives them like pause of like, yeah, pet peeves, right? So like like I was looking at some earlier in preparation for this show. It's like things like there were some icks that like girls said about their boyfriends when he taste tests ice cream with those baby tester spoons and can't figure out where to put them after. He's just like searching for like, what do I do with this? Like things that just give you like weird, like walking back after your turn in bowling, like when no one's paying attention to you and you're just like you hit a good, like you had a really good roll down and you had a very, very good hit in bowling and you're just like,
it's not your fault that no one's paying attention. That's unfair.
or when he sings the wrong lyrics so confidently and thinks it's right. Like you just like he's for sure like, oh, these are the right lyrics, and you're like, no, that's not how the song goes. Like icks, things that just give you like pause of, is this a weird person, or is this just like him walking angry in flip-flops or being angry in flip-flops? You can't get angry when you're wearing flip-flops, right? Throw your favorite icks out there. But like, we're going to do our NFL version of icks, of like players that we just won't touch, or players that just give us like that. Why
is my boy here?
Yeah, it's because he gives me the ick. We'll talk about that in a second. But guys, give us your best icks. Harris last year was
he's going to get opportunities. He's just going to do nothing with it.
Why Tampa Bay, Chris? Denver still has Russell as a starting quarterback. By the way, one of my icks. All right, we want to dive in. Do we want to start there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nicholas, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers give me the ick. Like all the players on their team just give me the ick, right? Like they weren't even good with Tom Brady last year. And Tom Brady, I know, was at the end of his career, but like they weren't even good with him. Now you introduce Baker Mayfield, Kyle Trask, given either of those who are actually playing. Tell me if you're going to go and draft Godwin or Evans. Go. Just let me know. Let me know if those guys are going to be guys that you're going to target in your fantasy football draft. Like,
I could see one of them being traded to the Chiefs. Why wouldn't the Bucs just move some of these guys?
Their total
They probably will.
Their total projected points is second fewest in the NFL according to Vegas books, only to the Arizona Cardinals when it comes to points scored. Like this team is like a 3-and-out machine from what I can like project. Like I don't project Baker Mayfield to be able to move the ball down the field. I don't project Kyle Trask. Like they got like guys on this team that are like old Hall of Famers that I'm just like, or old guys that are just very good and like veterans in the league that are still like kind of lingering from the Tom Brady transition. I don't know. I just don't believe in anything. Tampa Bay just gives me the ick when I'm just like, I don't know if I could touch anything associated with Tampa Bay.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about Arizona. Yeah, they give you the icks. You're talking about Baker Mayfield. How about receivers catching passes from Colt McCoy?
True. Yeah, that's true.
How's he still in the league, anyways?
Yeah. No, I mean Colt McCoy's still in the league. Like what? Like, bruh. I mean, I just can't do it with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
All right, my first ick is a wide receiver that 2 years ago dominated the league out of kind of a little bit out of nowhere. Like he was highly touted, highly drafted, young, but hadn't produced a huge year. Last year fell off a little bit, and now I'm just like, why would you draft this guy anywhere near the first few rounds? It's Deebo Samuel, Chris.
Deebo.
I am very ick on Deebo.
Debo's kind of, yeah. I can see it.
Deebo. I don't even think Deebo's the best catching wide receiver on that team. Give me Brandon Ayuk. I like Brandon Ayuk more than I do Debo. And there's a lot of factors with Debo, but like Debo 2 years ago obviously ran the ball a ton. Last year didn't run as much, wasn't as prolific. We already talked about, Chris. We don't know who the quarterback is going to be. It could be one of 3 guys in San Francisco.
It's like Darnold.
And one of them's named Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
You have Trey Lance, who hasn't proven anything yet, despite his draft prospects. And then you have the last pick of the last round last year, who's coming off, basically a UCL, like elbow surgery to repair and come back from that. And also, I'm not sure he's actually good. That sample size was not big enough for me to believe in him at all. So, like, I don't believe in Deebo Samuel. I wouldn't touch Deebo Samuel. I would draft Brandon Ayuk over Deebo Samuel. I think Deebo Samuel is way over. I would maybe not over Brandon Ayuk, because Deebo does run the ball and provide some things there. I just don't think the upside's there. Like, Kyle Purdy is not going to just sling it to Deebo. Deebo gets a ton of yak, and I know that some of that's Shanahan's system, and I appreciate that, but like, it's just not there. He doesn't run as many routes as a lot of the elite guys. He's off the field at times. They rely on that run game. You have Christian McCaffrey for the whole season as a weapon that kind of replaced what Deebo Samuel was. They were like, instead of wear and tear on Deebo, let's just go and get Christian McCaffrey to do that. And now Deebo kind of just seems like a wide receiver that's out of place a little bit. So I'm big ick on Deebo.
Yeah,
he's like a Ty Montgomery that's actually talented.
Well, and for me, like, I think there's an issue with San Francisco 49ers in general, right? Like, it's such, like, because they're a good team. Don't get me wrong. Like, and Nicholas in the chat.
Very good.
Nicholas in the chat. Nobody on that team catches the ball better than Kittle.
I said
Yes,
Kyle.
you did.
Yeah.
Yes, you did.
And the starting QB is Purdy if he's healthy. And so on and so forth.
Kyle.
But like, that leads to one of my icks too, is and you mentioned it, Nick. Nobody catches the ball better than Kittle. Kittle's my ick. Like, and for the same reasons that you have an ick for the 49ers, is like, George Kittle, I drafted him last year and he showed up like down the stretch when Brock Purdy was there. Like, he was very good down the stretch. But the issue was with George Kittle, he wasn't consistent the first half of the season. There's too many freak athletes on one roster. Like, Shanahan, I don't trust Shanahan either, because Shanahan's a very smart coach. Like, if you take advantage of the matchups, like, he'll take advantage of matchups. If tight end isn't a great advantage in one game, they don't go to him. And they'll consistently go to Ayuk and their wide receivers or their running backs. And Christian McCaffrey is there where he's taking a bulk of it. So you have Deebo, you have Christian McCaffrey, you have Ayuk, you have Kittle, you have so many options of freak athletes that are very good at what they do. There's not enough to go around where I can feel good about drafting Kittle as projected, a top 3 tight end outside. I mean, after I just, it's hard for me to go that way.
He doesn't land there. I get that he's a really, really good tight end. Like, he's a top 2 tight end when you factor in everything, but fantasy wise, he's just not. He's not a top. He's not that guy anymore. The quarterback position's only getting worse there. And
he gives me like that ick because it's like the expectations are he's gonna give you Kelsey numbers. That's not the reality.
He can't.
It's not the reality.
Kelsey's so much better of a route runner and pass catcher than Kittle is, especially route running. So Kittle cannot run routes anywhere near. And oh, by the way, Kelsey has Mahomes throwing the ball, and Kittle has maybe Sam Darnold. Well, so good luck with that.
And then that goes into Christian McCaffrey's like kind of like value of like, all right, one.
I love McCaffrey.
McCaffrey, they brought him in, but then you take away, to your point, Deebo Samuel, because they brought McCaffrey in to kind of do everything Deebo does, but then Deebo, they kind of put him into running back situations so that they can take a load off of like their other. I mean, they had Mitchell in there. That was like whenever Mitchell there's just so many options that do you just fade all the 49ers knowing that they're all amazing athletes and they're all good, but fantasy wise they're just not what you want to draft. There's just too much there. So maybe my ick is just 49ers at this point when it comes to fantasy football. Then maybe that's it. Right? Like,
yeah. I mean, as a team, they might win it all. They're probably a top 2 team in the NFC by most people's projections. Them and the Eagles are perceived as the top 2 teams in the NFC, but fantasy wise, they're not great. And that's okay. My next ick, I'll move to running back, Chris. I will go with a guy that Devil Doc mentioned that he drafted in a draft he did recently. And it's not that I don't like the player, but the situation's kind of already mapped itself out, and it's Kenneth Walker.
Oh, okay.
I mean, obviously Kenneth Walker got healthy, did some big things, had some big games for Seattle at the running back position last year when Rashad Penny went out with the injury. Now Rashad Penny's out of the picture. Kenneth Walker's show, right?
You would think.
Not so fast. One, Kenneth Walker had like some long touchdown plays last year. Like that's not regularly repeatable. Like I know he has breakaway speed and can do that, and he's big and runs fast, but that's not overly repeatable year to year. But more importantly, the Seattle Seahawks told us how they feel about Kenneth Walker when they took a running back in the 2nd round of the draft this year. And Zach Charbonnet. Like they took Zach Charbonnet in the 2nd round. Kenneth Walker is not really a pass catcher. Never really contributed in that sense ever. You use 2nd round draft capital in Seattle to take a running back out of Tulsa and Zach Charbonnet, who's more of a 3-down back, better catcher. I think he's going to eat into what Kenneth Walker could be. I like Kenneth Walker's breakaway ability, but also Kenneth Walker has a lot of play. He's either home run or nothing. He hits that home run or he's driving into the pile for nothing or trying to break out for nothing. Like he has a lot of minus plays to go along with those breakout plays. And as I said, I think Seattle did all the talking for me when they took used a 2nd round pick on another running back. They don't feel great about Kenneth Walker either. And so I worry about him and where he's getting drafted, where he's not going to provide the results based off of where he's drafted.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of hype around him last year. I mean, going to your point of like drafting like young kids with a bunch of hype, with a solid year under their belt, like, can they replicate that into another season? Like, yeah, I mean, maybe, I don't know, but like, it's going to take a little bit, right? But then you got this other new running back. They just like, yeah, there's a lot there. CMC is the only one I draft, and even then, he's my ick. Yeah, so CMC's. Yeah.
Nicholas said Scotty Kittle about 3 or 4 years ago had 1,377 yards, then 1,100 yards. So we're talking about 3 or 4 years ago. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
No, it's a little different. Like, believe me, I drafted Kittle recently, and it did not pan out well.
I love Kittle as a player and a person, but in fantasy, he just gets overhyped now because I think everyone likes him.
Like that's the problem. Yeah, that's why
everyone likes him as like a human being, and he's funny and entertaining, and like you mic him up, and he says some weird stuff. He's cool. He's popular.
Cool.
Everyone's like, oh, he blocks so well. Guess what? How many fantasy points do you get for blocking?
Yeah, totally. And that goes to my next ick is like cool names, right? I feel like sometimes you get it like involved in Najee Harris is posted here. Like Najee, like sorry, Rec, about your boy Doc, about your boy Najee. How is he overhyped because maybe or maybe just hyped because he's just has a cool name? Like he's a brand name guy. Like he came from Alabama. He has a cool name. Like he just, like he's never averaged more than 3.9 yards per carry in his professional career. Like, why are we hyped about this guy? Like, you know, he gets a workload, but it's a quality over quantity thing. Like right now, it's all quantity. And it's like he's getting a ton of looks, but when you're only getting 3.9 yards per carry over your career, like what? Like he's not explosive. He gets injured. Like those are the things that, I mean, he's kind of in that same category as like DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift, I think, is like, he has a cool name, but like he's injury prone. We're like, DeAndre Swift is going off a tangent here. He's going into be a receiving back with a team that doesn't check down at all. Coaches think he's undisciplined in the tackles. Like I think we overhype some of these guys. Like if you were to take DeAndre Swift and change his name to David Montgomery and send him to the Eagles, are you as excited as the Eagles are right now? Like, I don't know. I don't think you are. But like Najee Harris is kind of in that category of just like, he just has a lot of good attributes. He went to a great college. He was, you know, under Nick Saban in Alabama. He was, you know, everyone's hyped about him. The Steelers value running backs, good or bad, and they like stick with it, whether or not they're successful or not. They just like stick it for the long haul. That's what they do with running backs. I just don't feel like Najee is a guy, like he just gives me the ick. He just doesn't give me what I would want from a running back, like the hype around anything to get excited about.
You're only taking Najee hoping he gets the amount of, you know, percentage of plays where he's touching the ball like he's had through his career so far. He's basically it's not what he does when he has the ball, it's the fact that he has the ball so often compared to other guys.
But he still only averages 3.9 per carry.
Correct.
Like,
correct.
It's crazy. He gets the ball a lot.
You're basing it all on the fact that his workload is heavier than other guys. So like, but what he does with that, it hasn't been proven to be a lot.
But so like he was a workhorse touch wise, says Doc. Yeah, that yards per carry has to go up this year. It hasn't improved from year 1 to year 2. It didn't improve once, and he got a lot of carries. Plus, he's injury prone. Like a lot of that just like scares me away. Like he gets so many carries. You would think over year 1 to year 2, like he would have that uptick of like, oh, right. Like he went from 3.5 to like 4.6 yards per carry or something. It didn't improve from year 1 to year 2. So what makes me think it's going to improve from year 3 to year 4 or year 2 to year 3, I should say. Sorry. Like it's hard for me to buy into that as a running back. It scares me. The O-line was makeshift though too. Got to take it into consideration. We finally addressed that this season. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It's just
he'll get opportunities. We'll see what happens with it. But I'm kind of on your trend, Chris. Until I see, and I know, hey, maybe this is a buy low, but like, I don't know if that. Usually, it takes time for an O-line to mesh. So you get a new O-line in there. That takes time. I just don't see. I don't see Najee Harris as like a guy that like, even when he like breaks through the line, he's not a guy that's gonna take it to the house. So like his window is like, you know, a nice 20-yard run. Like that's his like kind of ceiling at times. He's not overly fast. He's not gonna, you know, make people miss. He's gonna try and run over you is what he's gonna try and do. Whether he can do that or not is something else.
Yeah.
But
to add on to y'all's point, Jalen Warren kind of broke out as an RB2, and at the beginning of the season, many Steelers fans were calling for him to start over Najee.
He had more fantasy points per touch than Najee did last year.
Yeah. Although also going to Devil Dog's point, the offensive line last year was already solid, and they added to it. So I mean, right there, holes are going to open up. What he does with those holes is to be determined, but
this
there's
is
going to
a
be
team
holes.
that's going to be running the ball all the time when they're winning 14 games this year, right? Right, Rick?
Yeah.
They're going to be in the lead. They're just going to be sitting and running, and handing it off, and scoring
That's
touchdowns
possible.
that way.
yeah.
That's always possible.
Yeah.
All right, I'll go ick real quick, Chris, with our first quarterback. I'll go to the quarterback position.
Ooh, okay.
I had some other ones that'll be drafted higher, but we haven't hit a quarterback. This should be ick for everyone, but my ick is Deshaun Watson, Chris.
Yeah.
Okay.
Obvious choice is obvious.
Here's a guy that a lot of people will probably be targeting, like, oh man, like
he's got a full season.
No one's gonna think about him because they hate him. He's gonna be a sleeper. I can get him later, and if he does what he did in Houston, he's gonna be dynamite for me. That's gonna be a QB1. I'm gonna be elite.
Overthinking it.
And they didn't look at what he did when he actually played last year, which
dude.
was he averaged 15 fantasy points per game last year when he played, Chris. He was really bad. He completed 58% of his passes. He looked lost. He didn't look comfortable. He's basically now 2 years of not being successful in the league. We don't know who he is or what he can do. I'm not touching him at all. I don't mean it any other way than that, Chris.
Don't touch him. Don't touch him. I mean,
invite me to massage him, nor would I accept. But I don't. The hype of Deshaun Watson, I'm not buying in on at all.
Yeah.
I get there's upside there. If he does turn into who he was at Houston in a couple of those years, the upside's huge. I don't think that's gonna happen. It's not gonna happen.
I mean,
the dude hasn't really played quarterback in 2 years. He's in an offense he doesn't know what to do with. His mentally probably fragile as hell right now, as he should be. He's a fraud. He's fraudulent. I don't like him. Maybe that's part of why he's an ick. But at the same time, he sucked last year, Chris. He was so bad. Once he got off suspension last year, he was still a bottom 5 quarterback in the league.
Well, doesn't it go into like his work ethic of like, all right, you have all this time off to like practice or do things on your own when you're suspended, and you have like all these ways to like stay in tune with like how you play the game, and yet he comes back and he's looking lost, and it's like, what does that tell you about how he uses his time outside of football? And i.e. you go back to the Arizona Cardinals and old boy down there who's Kyler Murray, who's like values video games maybe more than football, and it's like, all right, well, I just have so many questions about Deshaun Watson and like what he can actually bring. And I just don't believe the Browns are just a fractured organization that has never been very good ever. So
sad and desperate.
What am I going to
contract in sports?
Yeah.
Chris.
Yeah.
Because what you're talking about is you question his work ethic. You're like, oh wait, at least in the NFL, most contracts aren't guaranteed. There's only a portion that's guaranteed, and you have to work for the other part. Except for one player in the NFL, Chris, whose contract is fully guaranteed, coming off a sexual lawsuit or whatever it was,
26.
He loves massages.
Guaranteed quarterback, fully guaranteed contract in the league is somehow Deshaun Watson, Chris. It doesn't make any sense.
Even brings up another contract that he thinks runs with Deshaun's.
MPJ chimes in.
MPJ is a champion.
MPJ contributed.
He's a world champion.
Did you hear the Bruce Brown interviews, Cuban? They would not have won a couple of those games without MPJ. So
I know he was bad in the finals, but MPJ against the Lakers was so good.
Yeah,
he was so good against.
He contributed, yeah. Cuban. Don't you hate on MPJ?
Yeah, and you know
it. For another ick. Like, I'm still going to take him like maybe round 4 or 5, but I would not take Josh Allen as a top 5 quarterback this year. I'd let him fall before I take him. No, what? Scotty, hear me out.
Okay.
Like, you were talking about Purdy's injury. Josh Allen also had a torn UCL, and his method of recovery was time. No surgery, just trying to let time do its thing with his elbow.
He played 12 games after that last year and led the NFL in total yards per game at 315 yards per game.
But again, you're also talking about looking back at the past. I've seen Big Ben try to play after not getting elbow surgery, after trying to let it rest for the offseason.
Big Ben was a decade older.
So it's not...
STG, can we ban Rec this second?
Well, now you're banned.
Now you're banned.
You wouldn't take Josh Allen as a top 5 quarterback?
Yeah, like I take him as a value pick, but again, that elbow.
Well, you're not going to get him at a value because everyone's valuing him way more than you are.
I know. I know, yeah, exactly. So I'm not gonna get him, but
Value
I'm okay with that. I'm not gonna.
He's like, I'll take Josh Allen if he's there in the eighth round.
STG's like value pick.
But yeah,
Josh
that
Allen's
elbow.
around in the eighth round. I'll do it.
Yeah. I'm gonna snag
I'm not worried
Josh.
about Josh Allen's elbow at all this year.
I'm snagging Josh Allen in the
Not
10th
at all.
round when he drops to me, like as a value pick.
Yeah,
He's dating a Marvel superhero now.
Who's he dating?
in a sense.
Wait, who's he dating?
Oh, he's dating the girl that was in like
Hold
Pitch
on.
Perfect. Like
She
was in the. She
I
was
like-
in. She
I
was
like
like
her a
the-
lot.
with the bow and arrow. What's her name? Haley.
Haley
Steinfeld.
Stein.
Haley
Haley
Steinfeld?
Stein.
I think they're dating. Chris.
I think she's a winner though. I like her. I like her a lot.
She seems nice.
Yeah, she seems great. Why hate on? There's nothing to hate on Haley Steinfeld.
No, I do have a story about Josh Allen. That
Haley Joel Osment.
I've told you about this story. I've probably said this on stream before, but I do know a former coworker of mine that went to Wyoming at the same time as Josh Allen. And I think Josh Allen's matured, and I like Josh Allen as a person and as a quarterback, quite frankly. But he did pull the saw this girl at a bar one night on the dance floor and said basically to her like, "Hey, do you want to dance?" And she said no, and he basically pulled the "Do you know who the fuck I am?"
Oh, don't do that. That's that. You wanted to talk about icks,
But he
That's
was in
an
college.
ick.
He was in college.
Anybody-
I'm gonna give him a bit benefit
No,
of doubt.
you don't lose
and normally, normally I wouldn't believe it, but this girl,
You don't lose.
One, I do believe, and two, she was just an attractive girl, so it's probably true.
You don't lose that mentality. I feel like sticks with you. It's just it just does.
Maybe.
The anybody who that gives me the icks right there is like, do you know who I am? By the way, when I was for the NFL draft, there was one person on our crew that dropped that gave me the ick. And I'm not gonna say it here. I'm just gonna leave it at that. But
Someone on the crew gave you the icks,
Not
or
the
someone
crew, someone-
they talked. Someone on the crew talked about a player that gave you the icks about.
let's just say someone on our panel gave me the ick. With that.
no.
Yeah. Anyways,
Yeah.
not my jam. It just gives me the ick. So, but yeah,
Gibbons
like
says this sounds like a 50 Cent song.
sounds like a 50
50
cent.
Cent. 50 Cent.
Tell me how teams would pick the current QB over the Josh Allen. Under is 3.5.
over under is 3.5. It's under. It's under.
Cuban, the cheerleader.
There's definitely not. There's definitely not 4 quarterbacks in the league you'd take right now if you're a GM starting your franchise over Josh Allen. You're taking Mahomes over him.
Cuban.
You could take Burrow. That would make sense. Maybe you throw Jalen Hurts in there. I don't know if I would, but I could understand that. After that, who? Are you starting a
Are
franchise
you a
with
fucking
over
owl?
Josh
Who?
Allen?
Yes, he is an owl.
Mahomes, Burrow, maybe Hurts. I mean, my top 3 quarterbacks that I listed out were what did I say? It was Allen, Mahomes, and Hurts. Are they? Those are your top 3
fantasy. In fantasy, yeah.
In fantasy,
Burrow's
when it comes
not
to
a fantasy guy necessarily.
yeah, we're not talking about Burrow as a fantasy necessarily, but at the same time, like if you're trying to win your fantasy league, Hurts, Allen, and Mahomes are your top 3 guys, and there's kind of a little bit of a gap there. And then you started getting into the Burrows of the world and some of the. I'm kind of high on Trevor Lawrence this year, and the Jags. The Jags are going to be decent this year. Maybe a couple other sleepers, but Nicholas, not high on Herbert. Herbert's fine, but I just haven't seen him.
Everyone is in love now that Herbert's got a new offensive coordinator.
Just
over
wait.
there.
Just wait for everyone to pick Herbert to win MVP this year and keep
Now
that
they
whole.
have Kellen Moore from the Cowboys. Everyone's like Herbert's gonna scorch the earth, which is weird because people usually don't hype the Chargers.
Yeah,
so
I
it's,
mean-
it's so bizarre.
SDG is down on Herbert right now. I've just there's nothing about the Chargers. Chargers are always a believe it when I see it. I have another ick, and we talked
Yeah.
about this earlier.
Chargers.
No. Someone that just gives me the ick. Michael Pittman Jr. We talked about this earlier. Like,
I brought it up.
there's nothing exciting. I drafted him last year thinking he was going to be one of my sneaky picks. He absolutely just was average at best. And he was not great. Everyone was like hyping him up, and I was like, oh man, you have Matt Ryan coming in. He's going to elevate everything that Michael Pittman Jr. is. Not the case. And he had like 100 catches for 600 yards. Like, how does that make sense? Like that's a weird stat. Anthony Richardson comes in, a rookie quarterback with under 55% completion percentage in college. Richardson will be running, like scrambling around, doing a lot of just holding onto the ball a lot, whether it's, scrambling or whatever it may be. Like, he had less than 400 passes in college. Like, what are we expecting him to be in his first year facing NFL caliber defenses? I just don't see it. I don't expect a lot. I think he's going to be running for his life, quite honestly, the entire season. I'm fading everything wide receiver wise for the Indianapolis Colts. Now, do I think Richardson can eventually get it? Yeah, sure, but not this year. And that means Michael Pittman, he burned me last year when I took him high, and I'm not going to make that mistake again. So my ick is Michael Pittman Jr. Just simple.
Yeah, I'll go higher than that on the board at the wide receiver position, Chris. A guy that I think is insanely talented. Well, of course, is insanely talented and has had a probably debatable Hall of Fame career, and is still in his prime. Devontae Adams, Chris.
Devontae
for me.
I like that choice. I like that choice for Nick. Yeah.
Of course, we've talked about the quarterback play. We don't know. We're moving from Derek Carr to
Jimmy G.
Jimmy G. Potentially not even Jimmy G.
Yeah, it could be
if he doesn't clear their their health check or whatever it is.
The
he
physical.
could be released. The physical. He could be released, and they could be without a quarterback at all. Listen, everyone. I love Devontae Adams as a talent, and he still was a top 5 wide receiver. Everyone was worried about him. Oh, I move on from Aaron Rodgers. Am I going to be any good? And he was a top 5 wide receiver in the league, Chris. But last year, he was targeted more than he ever has been in his career. He was targeted more with the Raiders last year than he ever has been with Aaron Rodgers. Most targets in his career last year. And now you have Jimmy G. We know where they're headed with Jimmy G. We're headed to like a more ball control. We have Josh Jacobs, and probably the last year we're going to have him. We're going to run the hell out of him.
All right.
Let's go.
Oogie, whatever it is. Welcome in. Hope you're having a fantastic start to your night. Who's your team and where you're from? We like to get to know you a little bit. Welcome.
Yeah, I don't see this Raiders team as being overly competitive this year either, where I could see if Devontae Adams, who kind of talked in press, some interviews this offseason, he wasn't happy with what went on in the offseason.
No, he's got some
position. Yeah. And I could see if they start the first half like 2-6, 2-7, whatever that may be, I could see a scenario where he's like, I'm a little tweaked, and he doesn't want to play. He's like, well, what am I playing for? I got to conserve my body. I got to get paid. I want to move on from this team. I could see that scenario where like Devontae Adams kind of bows out this season because they're not competitive and they're not good, and he's not getting the stats or the targets he wants with Jimmy G at the helm, with a head coach that I know you love, Chris, that has proven time and time again to be really good as a head coach out of the New England coaching tree. So
look at his time in Indianapolis.
What a week. What a week that was.
Not even a week. What in like 6 hours?
Yeah.
What a great 6 hours.
He accepted, then he didn't. It's hard, Chris. It's hard out there. But I worry about Devontae Adams. He's not happy in his position. You get a downgrade at quarterback. Yep. You're not an overly talented team, likely. You're probably looking at finishing last or second to last in your division at best. I don't like the prospects for him. He's being picked at like roughly wide receiver 5 or 6 this year. Talent wise, he is that, but production wise, he won't match that this year.
Yeah, and like it's like picking. I mean, generally picking players on good teams. We know the Raiders aren't going to be a good team necessarily this year, so it's like, you're kind of hesitant on what their ceiling is from a top to bottom. I'm kind of with you on that. Like, there's some disgruntled nature with like certain players, and he's one of those that I'm just like, how long is his happiness gonna last in Las Vegas when shit hits the fan and he's not getting the targets or he's not getting the wins under his belt? And like, when's that gonna crack and fracture within the organization where he's gonna start doing a little bit of this and running his mouth and being like, hey, I'm not happy. Like,
he came in, got traded there a year ago, got the huge contract, playing with his college teammate and Derek Carr.
He's gone.
Later, they trade him.
Well, and that was a PR nightmare with Derek Carr, and like Derek Carr obviously like wanted to retire as a Raider. Now he's like, hey, like now there's like a post mortem for Derek Carr to come in and talk about his displeasure with the organization.
And I have zero issues with the Raiders wanting to necessarily move on from Derek Carr, but have a plan.
True. Yeah.
Your plan can't be Jimmy G. Have a plan to get someone in position. You don't trade for Devontae Adams, pay him $30 million a year, then get rid of your quarterback a year later, and then just go roll with Jimmy G. Why is Devontae Adams even on your team at this point?
True. Yeah.
You're admitting you made a tremendous mistake trading for him and all that draft capital you had to give up along with paying him $30 million a year. You're already forfeiting that, basically. You're forfeiting it.
Yeah.
Because and everyone will be like, Jimmy G made a Super Bowl. Yeah. Did he? Or did the Niners with a defense that was really good
and a great coach,
a great game plan and coach and Shanahan that could scheme up, things along with an offensive coordinator that, oh, by the way, is the head coach in Miami that everyone loves now. Like, there's a ton of talent at the coaching position.
Defensive coordinator with Houston now. Like, I mean, like they were stacked. Like,
or hell, even then
at the time, their defensive coordinator was now the head coach of the Jets.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think the offensive coordinator was McDaniels then either. I think he was
QB.
Yeah, probably. I think they had a different OC then.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember when Mike McDaniel left, last year, Shanahan said, I'm not naming an offensive coordinator. He didn't say it outright, but he basically said, like, because I'm tired of my guys getting taken. Like, Shanahan was going to act as the OC. Yes, let me check who the offensive coordinator was that year, because it wasn't McDaniel.
I'm curious.
You're probably right.
Oogie or Uji.
D coordinator was definitely
Saleh, yeah.
Yeah, Robert Saleh.
I'm from Striker, Ohio. My favorite team is the Green Bay Packers. Hey, there you go. Hey, you're gonna be right at home with Milwaukee's best. What are your thoughts about the Green Bay Packers and their ceiling for this season? I'd like to get to know.
Do you love love?
Do you love love? What? How's your love? What's your love?
Are you open to love? Are you open to love?
Embrace love. Embrace love in general. Like one
or
love.
Do you hate love?
There's only one love. So love it. The Colts won't do anything while he's playing Jerry Jones simulator. Casually, considering how the Raiders treated Carr, that's the short fuse.
That was a short fuse. Jimmy G, another cautionary, I think he meant, tale of one incomplete pass in the Super Bowl. Everyone references that throw, which one, by the way, was a really difficult throw to complete. It was in the Chiefs Super Bowl against the Niners. Chris Emmanuel Sanders deep down the field leading the game. But everyone's like, well, if he would have just completed that, they would have won. As if they forget who's on the other side of the field. It's just bizarre to me to think that Mahomes wouldn't have at minimum tied that game back. Because he would have. I promise you he would have. But I have to do another Code Yellow, Chris.
Code Yellow in the chat, and then we're going to get some... Scotty's going to do his coming in hot here shortly. So what is love? What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me no more. Yeah, there you go. See, hey, we're going Night at the Roxbury. Remember Night at the Roxbury? That movie was just like Chris Kattan and Will Ferrell is just like classic.
Look at this dude.
Classic. Look at this dude. I mean that movie, it's not like gonna win an Oscar by any means, but it's just pure entertainment. And it's just like, you know, those skits from Saturday Night Live just are so iconic. And like Night at the Roxbury, those two characters were so good. Like Saturday Night Live isn't what it used to be when it was like in the like 90s, 2000s. Nothing compares. I don't like the Packers' chances all this year. Love is not the answers. Well, I mean, my thing with Love was like, if he would have been the answer, if they felt strongly about him, they would have moved on to him sooner rather than later. But they kept holding on. When the Colts drafted Andrew Luck, they were like, hey, he had his neck surgery. Peyton Manning had his neck surgery. Like, Andrew Luck has all this hype behind him. He's showing us some great stuff. Like, we can move on from Peyton Manning and go on to Andrew Luck. That never happened with Love. That never was a thing. Like, they were trying to hold on to Aaron Rodgers literally as long as possible and pay him continuous, like, hey, what do you want? We'll pay you. With Love kind of kind of waiting in the wing, like, right, kind of hanging out, just being the next guy up. And I never felt like they wanted to go to Love. I just never felt that feeling from the Packers that like I never felt the feeling from the Packers like they wanted to go to Love, like the Indianapolis Colts wanted to go to Luck after Manning. And even Manning, like after that neck surgery, still had a little bit left, which he came to Denver, ended up winning a Super Bowl, and still had even a top like production year even before the year before the Super Bowl as the top offense. But like, I don't feel that with Love in Green Bay. Like, just it's not the same.
It was less about Love, in my opinion, and more about they were just sick of Rodgers' bullshit.
True. Well, that's another aspect of it.
That too.
So they're like, I'm sick of him. I'm sick of his bullshit. I'm sick of this. Every year we have to beg him to come back, or he's going to talk shit, or this or that. They were ready to move on, and I don't know if they're sure about Love, but they're going to be like, hey, let's see what we got in Love this year. And maybe they have... I don't know what Love's upside is. Love's upside to me is probably like best case scenario. He's like borderline top 10 quarterback in the league, but I don't think he gets there.
Yeah, not this year. Not this. If you're over under,
definitely not this year. I'm talking about ever in his career.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about ever in his career. I don't see him being much further than like a top 10 guy.
Got it. Okay.
So
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I'm with you on that.
I got one more ick, and it's a whole lot more sane. It's a whole lot more normal. New England Patriots offensively.
Well, you're looking at Mac Jones.
They did hire an offensive coordinator.
But Mac Jones doesn't offer a high ceiling to where you can get excited about anybody within that offense. Like,
yeah, and it's not just that. Juju's probably going to be misused. The offensive line's going to be garbage. Like, nothing on that offense is going to work. I would not touch the Patriots offensively.
And that's been true for
a while now.
Even Brady's last year there, it was true.
Exactly. Like, the defense took them to the playoffs.
Was terrible that last year. They lost in the playoffs in that first round.
The Titans.
The Titans, where they put up like 7 points or something.
I
want to say threw a pick six late. So they scored as many points for the Titans offense or defense as they did for their own offense. So I don't. And the rumors today, I don't know if you saw that, Rec, was Fournette was in for a workout.
I saw that. I would not touch him at all.
The running back position with Fournette, who was terrible last year in Tampa. 2 years ago, he's really good in Tampa when they won the Super Bowl, or 2 or 3, whatever.
Specifically in the playoffs, not even in the regular season. He was like third string.
No, he was good. He was good in the regular season the year they won. Very good.
I thought it was like Ronald Jones was their guy in the regular season,
No,
and then come playoff time, it's like in the playoff time, it's like, oh, by the way, we got this guy named Playoff Lenny.
No, Ronald Jones was never that dude.
I mean, Fournette, what? He's 28 years old. He's on the back end of his career. Like, what are you expecting? Like, I mean, when
that just tells you everything. I mean, there's so many running backs out there. We still have Dalvin Cook out there. We have Kareem Punt.
Jesus Christ.
Like, there's dudes out there that are still, players that think they're going to get paid. Dalvin Cook's not going to get paid at this point. It'll be interesting to see.
You're not that guy.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
I don't think Dalvin Cook's a big mover for me on any franchise at this point. But, like, it'll be interesting to see where he ends up and what he gets paid, because I don't think he's going to get the payday he wants, but I think he ends up in Miami. I think he's going to go to Miami, not on a big payday, but, like, that, he's obviously from Florida, went to Florida State, likes that vibe, probably enjoys Mike McDaniel, and that offense is going to be exciting and fun. And maybe he does a short-term deal there. That's what makes sense to me. I've heard rumors about. I've heard rumors about New England, but I'm like, why would he go to New England?
That
offense isn't going to be very good, and he doesn't seem like the type that wants to play under Bill Belichick.
Well, and it doesn't seem like Bill Belichick gets rid of guys before they're over when their prime is like a year away. I mean, his prime was like a year or two ago, at the tops.
Bill, they threw 5 figures or no 7 figures or 8 figures. I'm sorry, at Juju.
Well, maybe they're losing their mind. Maybe Bill Belichick is starting to get to the point where he's like
overpay. The position that Bill Belichick has never been able to evaluate and has always been wrong at.
Wide receiver.